Folks, if you need some new camouflage, don't look any farther than ASIO gear. They have a great line of products that covers everything you could possibly need at a very reasonable price, especially if you use that code ECHO15 that they offer all of our listeners. And if you're worried about it, the stuff got a lifetime warranty, so if something goes wrong with it, they replace it, no questions asked. Go over to ASIOgear.com and check them out. If you need some new broadheads, you got to check out Razor Broadheads. They have an awesome, dependable head that is tough as nails. I've used them for the last 3 years, and the wound channel that these broadheads leave has been really impressive to me. They're super sharp, super accurate, and they offer 20% off if you use the code BTE. So go over to razorbroadheads.com and get you some new broadheads. And then Stealth Outdoors. Hey, if you're not using stealth strips, you're not trying. Get your gear silenced with stealth strips. And then the product's not that expensive anyway, but if you use code BTE10, you get another 10% off. Now, just because it's not expensive doesn't mean it's not good quality stuff. This is the best silencing material on the market, hands down. Go over to stealthoutdoors.com. Hey, and then you got to have some saddle gear that you can use with your stealth strips. The guys over at Latitude make all kinds of great products, and right now on their website, they're offering 20% off everything. Their Method 2 saddle is actually 30% off. And then if you get over there and the sale's over or something, you're listening to this later on, use your code BTE and you go ahead and get 15% off everything. Go over to latitudeoutdoors.com if you need any saddle hunting gear. And finally, a new partner for the show, Hawke Optics. Listen, if you're in the market and you need some new optics, these guys offer a great product at an affordable price. They're also offering everybody 15% off if you use the code BTE. They got a line of everything you would need in all different price points, from rangefinders to binocular rangefinders to spotting scopes to all different types of rifle scopes and even some red dots. So go over to hawkeoptics.com and check them out. Use that code BTE, save you 15%. All my partners are in the description below. Go check them out. All right, let's get to the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We got Jake Bush on tonight. How's it going,
How you doing, man? Doing good.
I'm good. Just wrangling kids around and trying to, I don't know, Indiana, what you guys are about the same in Ohio. It turned cold again today, so trying to get out and scout a little bit. I've only been out like twice this spring, which isn't very much.
Yeah, it's been a little bit tough, man. It's been sunny out, and I really don't like scouting or shed hunting on sunny days too much, you know?
I know. I was thinking about that, I guess, last night. It's like, yeah, it's nice to have those like 45 to 50 degree days when it's overcast and everything just pops whenever it's like that in the woods.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Have you done much shed hunting this year?
So I actually brought some down for you. There's some cool stories here. So this shed I found, I'm gonna scoot back here, but I found this one in 2019, and that's actually the first side of the Big 8. You can see his kicker there, but that was the start. He was a young buck at the time, younger probably.
Yeah, you can tell he's a spindly thing.
Yeah, real spindly, and he never really had a ton of mass, but this year I went into shed hunting and scouting, and I was like, I really want to find a buck in Ohio. I want to find his antlers and not know about him, and then see if I can put the pieces together or not. So I've done, quite a bit of shed hunting, and the first one I came across was typical 12. He's a young buck. He's like a 3-year-old.
Yep.
Look at the pedicle size, but he's got a ton of potential. So he's a buck I'm looking forward to. And then, found quite a few, but one that got me really excited. I can't believe I'm going to show this, but might as well be on your show, right? But found this thing.
Oh, dude. I don't even know if I want to say something on this show, but that looks like a deer I freaking know about around here. You weren't Indiana tinkering around, were you?
No, but you can't even get it. So this buck's, he's big. He's over 170. So he's, one that I'm going to be looking for. And you know how it is, man. They could be miles off. So it's not that easy, but I was out looking for his match, and I stumbled on this thing, which is even bigger, which is just crazy and tons and
Yeah,
tons of
that's
mass. I mean,
a
so yeah, so it's been the best shed hunting year I've ever had. I mean, hands down. But yeah, been out doing that, and now I'm gonna start trying to figure out how to chase one of these bucks down, which is probably the hardest part. Just relocating them, you know. That's the
yeah.
thing I struggle with the most normally with finding their sheds is actually finding out how far they traveled to that feeding area.
In hill country, dude, they like it up in the. I don't know if it's a chestnut oaks in late season or what it is, but in the hills on public land, at least around here, it's a really good areas to shed hunt in. Like sometimes more so than the crop fields or wherever else on private around, or in the bottoms around here.
Yeah, it's the same here. We get so white oak years are normally pretty bad for shed hunting around here. It
Yeah.
seems like they'll travel and try to find like, you know, on private you can have corn piles. So they'll travel a couple miles to like private corn piles or if there's any standing ag anywhere. But man, on red oak years, like this year was a good red oak year, tons of
Hmm.
sheds. And then chestnut oak years, same thing. If you can find those pockets of chestnut oaks, it's game on, which should be next year again. So
Yeah. Yep. We're kind of on the same. We're on the same latitude line, I guess. So very similar around here. I'm looking. Think I don't have my sheds from. I do this one right here. I gotta find him this year. I didn't find him. He
oh yeah,
I mean that's
that's a beautiful shed.
a giant. Um, these videos suck. They for uh, online, but I mean this G3 is like I don't know. It's every bit of 12 inches.
Unreal, man.
So, I mean, it's probably a 170 clean 10.
Yeah,
But
is he alive? Maybe.
uh, I don't know, man. I didn't find him this year. I found this one in 2023 in the winter there, or he would have. I looked for him this year, didn't find him, but it doesn't mean he's not alive. I mean, I've had him come and go before, so yeah. And then there was another one up here. This is a pretty funny story. I may not have it up here. Yeah, this is it. So I was on the phone with Tim Hinkie, which I know a lot of people know who Tim is, but I was driving down a highway here, and I literally like looked over, and this thing was laying on the curb on the side of the road.
That's
On
crazy.
Highway 50 here in Indiana, and he's just laying there like this. I'm like, that was a shit, and it was fresh, like it was blood on the pedicle there. Whenever I picked it up, but that was another big one I found last year. Man, I haven't been able to get out much this year. Shed hunting. I've been out twice. I found a couple, but nothing really to get too worked up about yet. But it only takes one day of going out and finding the one you want to find,
Yeah, and you find pockets. Like I did probably about 80 miles before I found a freshie, and then I found that six side. I did about another 20, 25 miles, and then I found 14 of them in 2 days, all fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It was like just you hit a hot pocket, and then you just start, dissecting that area, and it's like, man, but that only happens every so often.
Yeah, and people can't even fathom. Like people, I hear people all the time because I used to, back before I had kids, I spent way too much time shed hunting, and people would be like, I just can't find them. And I'm like, well, you're not spending enough time looking for them. Like, you don't understand how much time and miles I put on shed hunting, or I used to, and I got 100 of them laying around, literally probably 100 of them now. Good ones too, but it's just over like 15 years of looking for them relentlessly.
The good years, like for me, it's probably 10 miles a shed.
Yeah.
That's a good average.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's way worse than that. Sometimes it's a little bit better, but
Yeah. What's the best how many have you ever found in a day? What's the best number?
oh, so me and my brother, I think had our best collective day, and I want to say it was 9 or 10 total. Actually, I take that back. I had shed hunted a cornfield in New York one time, and there was a bunch of tiny ones, just 50-inch stuff. But I found a ton of them. But the best good day we've had in Ohio was 9 or 10 of them. And then the day I went out and found that big typical when I was looking for the other match set, I want to say I found 7 or 8 that day total. So it was a pretty good day. How about you?
6.
That's a good day.
Myself, yeah. I hit a pocket. I just picked out one after the next. It was kind of one of those deals where there's probably a bachelor group of bucks and that working this ridge, and found a couple up top, and then I went down to this point down to the bottom, and I could like see another one just like on the point, like where a bed was. I'm like, oh, there's a shed, and there was a couple more in the bottom too. I mean, they were everywhere.
When you're in the hills, do you have like a focus area? Like I basically stick to south facing slopes or the spine of the ridge. I'll
Yeah,
like if I've got my ridges that point down, I'll like do a loop around the front of all of them. And then if I get into them, I'll do like 3 or 4 passes, but I
yeah,
barely ever go on the north side.
yeah. I try to stick to that too. I find a lot more of them up top. Do you find more up top too?
So I think on chestnut oak ears, yes, because the chestnut oaks prefer
Mhm.
that draining ridge. And
Mhm.
so if you have good chestnut oaks, I find them right on the spine. But if it's a good red oak ear, normally they're right, like our ridges are real steep, and then you get that little military crest, like it's
Yeah.
basically flat. Seems like that flat is normally a hot spot for me.
Mhm. Mhm. I would agree with that. And now that big one, that big non-typical or that big typical, I found him in the hub. But it's just I seem like I find more of them like in those 2 places you described. I mean, it's probably food related and then I don't know, I guess bedding related, but um and then the white oaks, I don't know if they just don't spend as much time in the bottoms during late season. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's cool. We pretty much hunt and shed hunt similar terrain. Like I hunted Indiana a couple years ago and scouted it pretty heavily. And you get like 2 different types of hill country terrain in these 2 states, at least from what I've seen. It's like you have the rolling hills and then you have the real steep stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say that I find more in the real steep stuff just because it
Mhm.
pinches up in those areas. The rolling hills get pretty tough.
Yeah, I almost exclusively stick to steep, hard to, terrains, hard to navigate terrain stuff
Yeah.
around here. Even hunting I do for the most part. Um, I don't know if it's just how I like it or what, but
Lots
keeps
of greenbrier and
oh
everything else.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. That's my favorite too. When I see the pockets on the adjacent ridge, I'm like, "Oh, that's where I gotta be. I gotta get over there."
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, my legs are constantly my legs are immune to it almost. Like I don't
Mhm.
even I'll get home and look down at my legs and it'll just be covered in cuts and I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I'm crazy sometimes. She'll look at him like, geez, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you show up to work, they're like, "What is wrong with you? What are
Yeah.
you doing?" I was
Cutting.
hiking.
Oh yeah. Now you got me wanting to go shed hunting. The last couple years I kind of like put shed hunting on the back burner. Um and just kind of relied on, trail cameras to tell me what lived or didn't live just for for time's sake. But yeah, man, there's picking up a big shed is really close for me. Like it gets me pretty pumped. It's not like killing one of them, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've never had a bad day of shed hunting, at least
Yeah.
yet, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
there's some rough hunting days every once in a while, but I've never had a bad day actually shed hunting.
Yeah. Because you don't really have expectations when you're shed hunting. Really, I mean, you
No,
don't
no.
because it's not the end of the world if you don't pick one up. I got a funny one up here. I keep this up. I just keep the ones that I like up here. But this thing, I came up over a ridge on and it was like a saddle. And when I came up on the saddle, as soon as I crested the top, this thing was laying here, and it's nothing special. I think it's just a little 100-inch 8-pointer. But I picked it. I'm like, oh, that'll be a decent deer next year. And I was walking along, and I don't have the other one up here, but I found the left side to it, and
Mhm.
I'm like, what the heck? There was a string attached to it, the other side, and then I looked down at this one, and there's it was someone's rattling antlers that they dropped walking down the ridge that year, and so I picked up someone's rattling antlers, thinking I had a set of sheds
That's
for
crazy.
everybody. But this one wasn't like super impressive. I didn't really pay attention or whatever. I just grabbed it and kept walking, and then when I found the other one with the string on it, I'm like, oh, that's not sheds; those are rattling antlers.
That's awesome.
um, so if someone dropped a pair of rattling antlers a couple years ago, I got them. Is there a shed that like your favorite one you've ever found
Oh,
that got you hooked on shed hunting?
You know, I really started doing a lot of shed hunting out in Montana when I was in the service out there. I was stationed
Mhm.
in Great Falls, so we'd go out in the Bob Marshall and just look for elk sheds. And I would say some of those first elk sheds probably did, but inadvertently you find tons of whitetail sheds, and it's funny, nobody cared about them.
Yeah.
Like we would just throw them up on one of the pack mules and then move on and try to find more elk sheds. But looking back on some of those big whitetail sheds, there's some giants in the Bob out there. But yeah, I would say probably some of the elk sheds. You know, whitetail wise, my best days are always with my brother. So I would go to some of the sheds we found. He found like a 175-inch typical 10 side one time, real tall tines, not a lot of mass, but beautiful buck. And that's probably the favorite one. I mean, we looked at that thing. This shed finally beat it. But
Yeah.
until this one, that was the record holder for like 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah. I had one. I first started. I keep him up here too, but I'm gonna knock him down. I started shed hunting when I moved down to Southern Indiana here, and that was in probably 2013. And we were walking. I was walking some public, and I found this guy on the public, and this is the one that got me going. I mean, he's just a freak.
it's awesome.
Yeah, great big, big bases on him, and all this little split on this one. And I picked him up, and I'm like, this really got me stuck on public land hunting too. Like, because when I was young, growing up, we just hunted our little pieces of private in high school and stuff. And I'm like, I found this one, and I'm like, holy cow, man! There's some, I've never had a deer like this on any of the private I've ever hunted. So, yeah, this one I never found him either. I found this on a piece of public you can't run trail cameras. So, yeah, but that one will always be cool to me.
Yeah, that thing's awesome.
Yeah. All right, we'll get off the shed hunting topic. Some people love it, some people don't get it at all.
Yeah.
The shed hunting part of it. Okay, before we get into this deer you killed this year, I was going to talk to you about you a couple of years ago. You kind of had an exit from the hunting industry for a couple of years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
What brought that about for you?
Oh, so I could go all the way back. I moved down to Ohio in 2019, and before then, like I had Facebook a long time ago, like maybe 10 years ago, and I deleted it and just lived a really quiet life and hunted on my own terms and did my own thing. But when I moved down here, I created Instagram and had a Facebook and then started the YouTube and just wanted to document it and really enjoyed it for a long time. I still do enjoy it. I want to get back to more of the storytelling that I used to do. But I would say that the biggest change for me was having a family and then just trying to prioritize the family, to be completely honest with you. I went from like storyteller mode to I found myself scrolling on Instagram more and more often. And it was just, I didn't like the way that it was going for me. And the way that I have a habit of doing things like all or nothing. That's just my personality. I give it everything I got or I don't do it at all. And so I just decided, you know what? I think that I'm at the point in life where I'd like to make sure that I'm doing the right things as a man and a father and a husband and put the priority where it needs to be and focus on that. And then, see where I am in a year or 2 years. And if I want to come back and, story tell again, then I'll do that. And so that's why I came back. I was like, you know what? From a priority standpoint, we figured a lot of things out with the family. We had Lainey, which is baby number 2, and things seemed good. So I decided to kick the Instagram back up, and it's still slow. I'm nowhere. I think I've made maybe 2 or 3 posts in the last year or something like that. But
Yeah.
but I just enjoy it, man. And deer hunting for me, the thing that I've realized is I truly love and enjoy being out there for all the right reasons. And I don't want it to I don't want to make it feel like I have to be out there, or like I have to prioritize it differently. I just want to deer hunt on my terms and share whatever story I can, but I want to do that with my family. And I even found myself like picking the states I was going to because I thought I could tell a better story in that state. When in reality, like what I want to do every fall is I want to hunt Ohio. I want to probably hunt out west every once in a while, but I want to go back to New York and hunt with my brother every year because that's the most fun that I have.
Yeah.
Like we go up there with muzzleloaders and And I can't really self-film that story, you know? So I didn't do it for a few years and I recognized it. I'm like, man, I want to go back to having fun with friends and family and enjoying that. And so that's the path I'm on, man. I mean, I think that everybody thought there was a deeper reason or something else going on, but it truly was just me trying to make sure I was doing the right thing.
Yeah. And dude, that's about deep of a reason as you can get, really. I mean, um, deer hunting is such a selfish sport. It really is. Like, I know people act like it's some kind of a church for them or um, a way for them to unwind. And it is all those things. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but most of us are just doing it because we have some ego issues
Or
or we want to kill a big deer.
yeah,
Um, Not saying everybody's like that because I like to think that I'm not like that anymore. But at one point in time, it was super important to me to kill a buck every year or whatever the
yeah,
case may be. I learned that this year. Like, I have never not killed a buck in Indiana since I was 9 years old, and I didn't kill one this year. I was a lot more picky this year than I have been in years past. But it's like the season came and went, and literally nothing changed. Like my life, nothing went down on this channel. None of my friends
mhm.
cared. Like it was fine.
It's a really freeing feeling when you finally reach that. I've reached it too. I mean, the Big 8 kicked my butt for 2 years, right? And like that first year, I really wanted to fill a tag, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just out here, and I'm on my own journey, and I'm doing my own thing, and I'm happy with that. There's no tag that needs to be filled to fulfill what I'm trying to get of out here. More than anything, man, I like the peace and quiet out there too. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I work in the city. I commute to the city. I have an hour and 15-minute drive every day to and from work, and life is loud and busy, right? I work in a factory, so when I can just escape that, it's great. So I'm more than happy just being out there, tag or not.
Yeah. Yeah. This was the first year that I've always like had deer I would like to kill, like big deer, but I was always like, well, if one I'm happy with walks by, I'll shoot it. And this was the first year I'm like, these are two deer that I want to kill this year. And I'm not I don't claim to be like the greatest hunter in the world. I just didn't get in front of them this year. And I didn't, at the end of the year, I didn't fill a tag, and it was kind of cool. I have never hunted late season in Indiana, like very little hunting outside of doe hunting, and it was fun to like run around late season this year. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
but
there's nothing wrong with that, man. I prefer late season to like the rut and everything. To be honest with you,
yeah,
it's just awesome out there that time of year.
mhm. Yeah, dude, I almost killed the big deer I wanted to kill this year during late season. It was fun. It was,
Was it in the hills?
mhm.
So what'd you think of Access late season?
Horrible. That's
Oh,
why I didn't kill him, dude. He saw me,
yeah.
like he was where I thought he was. Exactly where I thought he was. Like if I would have got set up, I would have killed that deer. I had a muzzleloader. I was shooting a muzzleloader, and like, yeah, he just saw me. Like he probably was 150 yards, 200 yards from where when he hopped up and ran down the ridge.
Yeah, I had that happen, and then I remember the day that it hit me, I was accessing in actually on the Big 8, and it was 2021 no, 2022, I'm sorry. The year we had bad EHD run through, and I located the Big 8, and right at the end of the year, I was trying to track him down, and we had just crunchy leaves. It was all icy and everything. And I was up on top of one of the ridges, crossing over the spine of the ridge, and he was bedded on the windward side. And I remember I stopped like roughly 400 yards from where I thought he was bedded, and I'm just as slow as I can go, trying not to crack on too many leaves. And I just kept hearing footsteps, and I was like looking around for a squirrel, right? And I'm looking around, I'm like, there's nothing nearby. And then finally, for some reason, I was like, pick up your binos and look. And on the adjacent ridge, I mean, as the crow flies, probably close to 400 yards, there was a tiny little doe just milling around feeding. And that's what I was hearing from that far away. And
Mhm.
I was like, I have no shot at trying to get close to this deer. There's no way I'm going to make it within like 200 yards of that deer,
Yeah.
which is why I slept next to the tree for 3 days, basically. Still didn't work.
Yeah. Um, I got complacent. I was in a bit of a hurry because I was I have this weird thing with my Onyx. Like I always have like this challenge for myself. Like I want to get as far as I can without looking at this stupid thing. I want to
Mhm.
be able to navigate through the woods. And I took a left when I should have taken a right on a ridge. and I walked probably like a couple hundred yards the wrong way, and I noticed it and got turned around. But then I was like kind of in a hurry, like, oh crap, I got to get set up, And yeah, I got complacent. It was a perfect day too, kind of, a little breeze, and we had some snow, and the snow was real fluffy, so it was pretty quiet. And but yeah, he jumped up like 150 to 200 yards in front of me. I mean, I was within probably 20 or 30 yards. I mean, I was picking a tree out, but
Man, that's tough.
yeah,
You had him dialed, so
yeah, just didn't close it. I sat up there and I pushed in a little farther just because I knew I bumped him and set up, but nothing came by. And then some two corgi dogs moved into that area from a house that was up against the public, and there was two sits in a row where those dogs were in there. And they'd follow me back to the truck every time I would get down and walk back to the truck, and they'd follow me back to the truck. So, and then season ended.
Yeah.
So
you'll get him.
Yeah, he's alive. Both of them that I was after this year are alive. So I'm looking forward to next year. Well, like just to go off of what you were saying earlier about all these big sheds you found this year, man, there was a lot of deer. There's a lot of deer around this winter, some big deer that lived. Which is good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, I learned a ton about quite a few deer chasing them late season now. And to me, the following year, a lot of that's still relevant. Like I was finding them use a lot of the same beds, travel tendencies, however they're running the ridge, especially if you get snow and you can see that. Like, did you ever get a chance to see that buck's travel routes?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This year, I hunted in the snow more than I have in years here in Indiana. So it was good. He was with does too when I spooked him. That was like probably right before Christmas is when I was really on him there. I mean, he was showing up on camera. He was there, but man, the hills are just. It's not like you're in farm country either. Like they can just be so many places if they want to be too. They can get dispersed in there, and they have a lot of options. So it can be tough.
If you had to take a guess, what would you say the core range of that buck is? Like, what's his, not even core range, what's his like travel area? How far would you say it is?
Like I think regularly he's probably moving 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah. That's
tough. And only reason I know that is because on the public, I have one piece of private I can hunt at the bottom pretty far away, and I had him on camera there a couple times during the season too. That spot is literally just a field. Like I really can't hunt it, but I just run a camera in there to see what's, in the area, and I almost always hunt them up in the hills. But yeah, they can move a long way, especially if because a lot of times on the farm country around here, at least, those farm fields and stuff get almost more pressure than the big hills do.
Yeah.
Even if they're public, or even if they're private, and it's just they'll travel pretty far to go back up in bed in the hills, and then come back down to the crops at night. After they've munched around on acorns or whatever else they're eating on. What about you? How far do you find them?
So what I can tell you is with these sheds, I basically drew, let's say 1.5 mile radius. So, basically from one end to the other is pretty close to 3 miles north, south, and then east, west. And somewhere in there is where I believe those deer living all the time.
Yeah.
And, I started doing that a few years back, but with the Big 8 specifically, it seemed like every time I put a camera way out of the game, like really far away, I'd get him on that camera at some point. And it blew my mind, to be honest with you. I mean, his range was 3 miles total. And so it was, huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of my new process, right? I'm like, well, how far are they probably going to range here? And I think if you have like some really good ag, it probably shortens that range a little bit. But if it's true big woods, or if they have ag on like sometimes you get a block of public and then both sides, whether it's north, south, or east, west, will have ag. Well, pretty much that whole block is probably their travel area, right?
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen. So what I can tell you is normally it's like if I find a shed or if I find a glass of buck or whatever it may be, I'm going to do my due diligence in probably a 3-mile area just to make sure that the thing that I kept doing that I wanted to eliminate is I'd start chasing a buck down and try to learn about him, and then he would disappear. I'm like, well, how's he disappearing? Because I'm tearing this area apart. And what I realized is they were always going further than I thought.
Yeah.
And so what it turned into for me is I expand way out and then I'll narrow in as needed. But a lot of times I'll leave soaker cams way out there, like a couple miles away. And then what's cool about that is, you almost always catch new bucks on those cameras.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've done a lot better trying to narrow in on those bucks if I actually spread that wide net right away and then I start focusing back in on it. If it's the other way, it's like you're always behind him. You know what I mean? So I like proactively get ahead of them.
This particular deer I was after, there's no crops to the east at all. It's all crops to the west. So maybe like you said, I don't know if they just kind of stick around those particular areas. There's a deer that he's probably 7 or 8 years old. He's like a local legend, and that I mean I have like 3 different buddies that run cameras kind of in the same area, and we've all had him on camera. None of us have ever seen him like in person, and he's in that like 3 to 4 mile range where we'll get him on camera throughout the year, all over the place. Man, I was wanting to really kill that deer this year, and he was one of the ones I was going after. And he just kind of moved to where a buddy of mine was hunting, and I just didn't, I didn't go in there after him. My buddy was trying to kill him, and just didn't, not worth. No deer's worth breaking a friendship over. But that's what I'm on my Onyx here. I was going to see how far, like, I know where both cameras are that we got him on throughout the year. And let me think here. Where's it at? Yeah, here it is. So we're looking at, geez, dude. Yeah, 3.5 miles.
Yeah.
The camera to camera. So I dropped a line on the two cameras. So.
And he's probably further than that sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I'd love the collar one in the hills and just see. Has anybody done a study in the hills like that?
I think PA's done some. But,
have they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they go a long way, man. Like an almost like unmanageable amount of terrain they can cover for one guy. What's your camera strategy now?
So it changes all the time, right?
Yeah, me too. That's why I ask everybody.
Yeah, I think it depends on the deer, to be honest. But what I can tell you is I got a couple different types of cameras I run. It's basically the Wild Views. Midway USA will sell these for like $25 every once in a while, and I'll pick them up. And then I'm sure somebody else would know better. But if I look at the Muddy,
dude, I just bought 8 of those Muddies. They're the exact same thing.
It's got to be the same camera, right? I mean, all they have is like a different plate on the front.
Yeah.
And the settings are the same thing.
Chad Sylvester from Exodus told me they're all made in the same factories.
So if that's the case, the Muddies were like $21, I think. So I bought 5 packs of 2. So I run just really a bunch of SD cams. I will run some cell cams on top of the ridges. But it's very situational, right? Not all the time. It depends on the deer. It depends if I even have signal in there or not. But I'll try to do that and just see if I can like get them to pop in during the summertime or something. The Big 8 actually was crossing a cell cam that I had signal on right up to season before the year the loggers took that ridge out. But typically what I do is I have a couple different strategies. So I have a prospecting strategy, and then I have an intel strategy on a specific deer. So the prospecting strategy, what I try to do is I'll go pick out a bunch of different systems that kind of set up like we've discussed before, right? I like, you can call them a hub if you want, but areas where you have a bunch of different terrain coming together. If there's clear cuts, great. If there's ag nearby, great. If it's hard to access, great. The steeper, the better. I actually turn basically every time I'm e-scouting now, my slope angle on Onyx, I think that's what it's called, is always on, just so I can see like where the steepest areas are. I'm looking for the red. And if I can find those pockets of red, I'll typically go in there and I basically speed scout it. So I'll go down through the bottom, see if I can find any sign. If I can find sign, I'll typically hang a camera up. I might hang one up in that system. Normally, what I try to do is one low, one high. I used to do just one low, but after hunting a couple different deer, some bucks barely ever go low. Some of them will almost spend their whole life entirely at the top of the ridge, and it's amazing to me. But so I used to think I was covering everything, but I realized I'm probably not even seeing half the deer sometimes. So one camera low, one camera high, and then I'll get out of that system. I really won't overly scout it. I'll just try to find like that basic sign that's going to give me inventory. And I'll try to do as many of those as possible until I find a buck I want to go after. So this year, for example, this spring, I put out roughly 25 cameras in that manner, right? And I would say it's probably 8 to 10 different locations total. So I'm just prospecting areas I've never been. I'm trying to see what the genetics look like, how many mature bucks are around. Those cameras have lithium, the Ultimates double A's, and then a 32 gig card. I hang them about 10 to 12 feet high with a stick. That way I know they're not going to get messed with by like mushroom hunters or turkey hunters. And I just let them soak. And to be honest with you, I probably won't pull them until next spring because I have a buck to chase. But so that's like my prospecting strategy. And then the intel strategy is the specific deer. So like the drop tine buck, for example, I have an area that I found a shed. And so within that 3 miles, like basically that big circle, I'm just looking at all the different terrain. I'm going to pick it all apart, go in there, boots on the ground. And I might place 10 or 15 cameras in that 3 mile area, and I'm just trying to like have some low, have some high, have some in and around what I believe is good bedding areas, and just really try to start picking that area apart. And then what I've really enjoyed doing more and more the longer I do this is I want to figure it out how to kill that deer either as close to season as I can or in season. I just love like actually pursuing him and figuring him out. So the cameras for me are basic, what type of tendencies does he have? How can I build on that? And then, what areas is he preferring at what time of year? Because, I'm going into this with this buck. If I highly doubt that I'm going to catch up with this buck this year. Like some of these big woods deer, it takes a couple years, right? And you may never catch up to him. But so this year for me is like year one of chasing this deer. I just learned about him. I want to learn all his tendencies, and that's going to take me a long time. I'm playing the long game. And then going into, if I don't kill him this year, going into next year, I'm just going to have so much more to build off with that deer. So I'm going to take all that inventory that I gained and all that intel from the cameras this spring when I pull them on this specific deer, and I'm going to go through and just try to understand what's going on. Couple that with your boots on the ground scouting. The big thing for me that I try to do is, this has evolved a lot, but I'm trying to get away from assumptions when it comes to chasing a deer, and I'm trying to really understand what's going on by being out there. And so like one of the biggest things that I like to do is just I want to like put myself in his shoes as much as possible. So I want to walk the ridges in the same manner that I'm catching him on my cameras and see like, how is he going from A to B? What trails are there? Where are his tracks at? Where's his rubs? And, some deer have certain tendencies with rubs, for example, or with scrapes. And can I just follow those tracks? If we get snow, can I follow his tracks? And the reason I killed the big 8, well, a big part of that was I started learning how he would hop over sub ridges, for example. That's something that's so minute in the grand scheme of things, but how he was hopping over sub ridges is how I closed in on that deer. So
describe a sub ridge for everybody.
Yeah, so main ridge runs, let's say north-south, right? And then you're going to have spines or sub ridges that jut out. It could be west and east, or it could be just east or west. It could be any direction, but they're typically smaller than the main spine of the ridge, right? Like I can look at a spine of a ridge and say it runs for 5 miles, for example. And those sub ridges may only be anywhere from 400 to 1,000 yards long, sometimes even shorter than that. But so, in between the sub ridges, you have those big bowls of that ridge. And I find probably more bedding in and around those bowls than I do out on the points of the ridges. And so a lot of times what I would try to figure out is, okay, if he's bedded in that bowl, is he dropping straight down through that drainage? Or is he staying like mid-level on the ridge? Or is he going high on the ridge in the upper third? What I found out with the Big 8 is he would wrap around the head of that bowl, and then he would actually hop over the subridge down into the next bowl, and that's how he was traveling out. So like he would never drop low and expose where he was bedding. You would always think he was bedding one bowl over because he would hop that subridge in daylight and then head down that other bowl. So when you get him on camera, you're like, well, all I got to do is set up underneath here and I'm going to kill him. But in reality, he's 800 yards away in the other bowl. So Justin Wright is actually one of the guys that tipped me off to that. I believe that he's the one that calls it hub hopping when they jump from bowl to bowl over the subridges. And he's actually killed a lot of deer doing that as well. He'll be on the back side of that subridge and thermal's dropping down at night and that buck will come up to cross over and he'll catch him. So I just learned that tendency specifically about the Big 8. It was good timing with talking to Justin. But ever since then, I've really taken a deep dive into figuring out those specific tendencies. I would say that that's probably the thing that gets me going the most now is really getting in the mind of that deer and trying to just figure out what he's doing, to be honest with you. I find more enjoyment out of that. And I mean, I could do that all spring and have just as much enjoyment out of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And also, like, at least for me, man, I get excited when I find one using the tops more because it can be tough at the bottom sometimes. Like, it can be miserable to hunt a bottom just with winds and thermals messing with you all the time. And it's kind of refreshing to be up top. Not that things can't go haywire up there too, but yeah, that's good stuff though, man. The more I run cell cameras, the more I think I'm not going to run them anymore. I just never have they've never produced for me very well.
They don't, to be honest with you.
No, they seem like to me maybe just a little bit of waste of my money and time.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think might be going on is there more pressure where there's cell signal now because guys can run cell cameras?
Maybe. I don't know, man. The cameras they have now, they all do pretty good. I mean, around here at least, you can get decent enough to get a picture. But
Can you?
yeah, I don't know, man. It's a coincidence, and I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants me to say it on here or not. But a buddy of mine, we're buddies now. At the time, we didn't really know each other that well. He actually saw me at Walmart and like knew who I was and said hi. That's the only interaction we had with each other. But I had a regular card camera on a hub scrape this year, and I went down there, and it's where I was chasing this big deer. And I went down in there to check it, and there was a cell camera hanging like 2 trees over the same hub scrape. I'm like, man, someone else is in here, Okay. And there was a kind of down the hub a little bit. There's exactly what you're describing is, those secondary ridge that came down into the bottom. And I'm like, I'm going to go set up there. Mostly because like that, I knew that cell camera wasn't there in August when I came and checked it the first time, that my card camera. So I'm like, man, someone's been in here pretty recently. And so I went down to the secondary ridge point, whatever you want to call it, that came down to the hub. And I was walking up and I saw someone waving at me. And I'm like, oh crap, there's the guy,
Yeah.
And there was one other truck in the parking lot, and it's a gigantic piece of public land. What are the odds of him being in the same place I was in? So I just kind of waved and walked back to where those 2 cameras were over the scrape. I'm like, I'll just sit here. I was running out of time. And I looked down at my phone when I got set up, and I had a Facebook message, and he was like, hey, was that you that just walked up on me? I'm like, well, I just walked up on someone. I'm like, sorry about that, man. He goes, no, don't leave, and we talked or whatever. And fast forward, we were like sharing information about those cameras, and dude, like I got pictures on that SD card camera that he did not get on the cell camera too, or didn't get sent to him. So I think maybe some of that signal that you think you have, maybe it's a little bit of like a false hope, or it's not as strong as what they advertise on the camera, and you don't get all the pictures or what the scenario is. But it definitely wasn't sending the pictures that it needed to be. That was walking by the, deer walking by the same exact scrape.
Yeah, I mean, out there, how how often are you really getting a big mature buck doing the same thing like 2 days in a row anyways, right? It
Yeah,
and so
you're
the cell cam's made for that situation. It's at least in my opinion, it's made for, "Hey, he's hitting this scrape or he's hitting this food source, and I'm getting him there multiple times, and now I can capitalize on it." But if I go through all my cards that I've ran, I don't know if I can probably count it on one hand the amount of times I've had a buck do the same thing, even like twice in 3 or 4 days.
yeah,
It's not a lot.
almost never. Every now and again, like September, they'll do some stuff that's pretty consistent. But like by here, at least, by end of September or October 1st, they're not consistent, like you said. Um, so yeah, I've pretty well decided this year. I'm just like, don't worry about the cell cameras. Um, Saved a couple $100 a month and buy lithium batteries with it or something.
Yeah.
My cameras though, those wild views or muddy or the other, like I think stealth cam makes one that's
Mhm.
very similar too. I think maybe they own wild view, but they even with alkaline batteries, mine last all season for the most part.
Oh, I'll get 2 years out of them almost. I mean,
Yeah,
I pull some that different states and stuff, and I go out there, and I'm like, "Oh, this thing's still just taking
yeah,
pictures."
they last a long time, and that's what because I put all my cameras out like right now, and people will be like, right now, I'm like, yeah, they'll be fine. They'll still be taking pictures. Now granted, now if you are hunting some Iowa on a cornfield or something where you're getting 1,000 pictures a day, maybe you shouldn't do that. But on the public land around here, you're not getting a ton of pictures, every day.
Like a picture a week,
Yeah.
maybe. It's not great at all.
No, no, we're not talking like over a corn pile in Iowa or something or a mineral site in Iowa. It's just public land deer hunting pictures. So yeah, don't be afraid to put cameras out right now. I had a lot of people question me on that, and it's fine. I mean, you always run the risk of a limb growing or getting blown over or something, but for the most part, if you do your due diligence and make sure it's all clear, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is elevating them,
Yeah,
and I think everybody knows that now, but if this time of year, if I leave them low, whether it's a mushroom hunter or a turkey hunter or somebody hiking around, it seems like they get taken or cards taken or something, just turned off sometimes, it could be anything.
yeah,
But if I get them up higher, they're fine.
yeah, yeah. And that's another thing is that muddy. They kind of have like a texture to them that makes them blend in a little bit better. And if I get like some of them are black that I buy these Amazon Wosoto ones or something like that, and I'll spray paint them if they're not camo. And I
You
use
know
that Good Sit mobile bracket too. I really like that thing.
oh, I don't have it in here, but that wire that I use, I was gonna show. I use just mechanics wire. It's like I
Yeah,
think it's 15 gauge.
yeah. I got bought a roll that this year to use some of that stuff.
Have you tried it yet?
No.
Oh, take
Mm-mm.
needle nose with you. That's how. So I twist it up with needle nose, and then you can cut off with the whatever you have extra.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna bring you. I got a pair of like Lyman's,
Yeah,
but
super good.
same thing. Work the same. But did you like those Good Sit mobile brackets? Did you have any of those?
I do have them. I do like them. It's actually funny. I was out the other day, and I had a buddy down here, and we're scouting around. We look up, and I was like, "Hang on a second." I was like, "There's a why?" I don't think it was a wild view. It might have been a Browning, but there's a camera with 18 gauge mechanics wire and a Good Sit mobile bracket. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Who is this?" I was like, "We got to get out of here. This guy's killing all the deer in here for sure." It's guaranteed.
Yeah. I always like I really like them brackets now because I've had a lot of times where like you put sticks or something behind it, it just squirrels knock them off or they rot or something like that. And those things are like $10 for one of them. And some of those trail cam brackets are stupid expensive for what they are. But those ones have served me pretty good.
Yeah, the Good Sits are great. I use quite a few of them still.
Yeah. Um, Okay, last time we talked about this couple, maybe been last year. It was a while ago, but you mess with mock scrapes anymore?
You know, I don't. I really don't, to be honest with you. Not a whole lot. I can't find areas where I'm keeping them away from other people enough. Is the
Okay.
problem. Like, if I make a big mock scrape and it just seems like and it's getting a lot of activity, it seems like guys in the hills can follow like, there's guys out there scouting that are good at this, and they're following deer trails and trying to figure everything out like we do, and man, it's like they get led right to these things. I had more hunters standing in mock scrapes than anything, and so this past year, I pretty much went away from them completely. But you know what? It is still like I still could use it, right? I do think that it's effective. I just need it to be everything. It's funny because I used to, as I've learned things in deer hunting, it's been an absolute for a short amount of time, right? Like
Yeah.
scrapes, I'm all in. Trail cameras, I'm all in. And then I find out like, well, it doesn't work for every situation. And then so I scale back and I start just using it more as a tool as opposed to just being like, that's the only thing I'm going to do is just run cameras on mock scrapes everywhere I go. So I'll use it if I need to. I still have a bunch of buck fever. So if I need to use it, I will.
Yeah. Yeah. The best case scenario is you find a spot that is already set up for a trail camera, or a place to um, intercept a buck on its terms. But dudes, there are it's an effective tool, especially like Troy Pottinger. He's doing the same thing we do, just on a bigger scale in the mountains. Um, and man, you can't really deny his success with them.
No, he's as good as it gets. So he's
Yeah,
got it figured out.
I I dabbled in them this year again. Like I'm trying to mess with them again this year to just some spots I had in my mind. Like I'm like, man, I really wish there was a scrape right here, because I think it's a good spot to where a scrape should be. It's just not the conditions for it for the deer. And so I kind of messed with it this spring. I put two of them out just to like test it a little bit better. Um, and probably, to be honest with you, it'll probably be spots that I won't hunt this year. I'll just leave the camera up and go check it out in December next year.
Yeah, you know what the tough part for me is about him? I think Troy's had them. I mean, he's obviously establishing new ones all the time, but he's had some of them established for so long that as the food sources shift, you know, he's finding that right year where that mock scrape's super beneficial.
Yeah.
Uh, I think if you almost have to have that long-term mindset with it, because if I go and I find a killer area this year and say I'm going to run a mock scrape on it, well, the deer could be 4 ridges to the west on some red oaks instead of the white oaks because the white oaks didn't produce, right? So that
Yeah.
mock is useless in that location until those white oaks are hot again. So if you look at it long term, like maybe the play for me, what I need to do is, hey, I'm going to run a mock here. And this year I'm just going to establish it. I'm going to keep up with it. It might not do very good, but next year maybe I have the food source, which is going to bring those deer into that specific bedding area, which could produce for me. So I find myself in more of those big wood settings and falling in love with that more and more, and that leads to the deer shifting more and more. I don't have like that annual, hey, they're going to do this at some point very often. I have some spots, but a lot of them are like the deer could be anywhere within this 3 miles. I just
Mhm.
have to go in there, I have to find the hot food source, and then the bedding's going to be dictated by that hot food source for that area. And then if I have a mock there, maybe it'll be more beneficial. So
Yeah.
it's tough just because of that cycle and that shift. I've always battled with that.
Yeah. And I know guys that just put the scent in the scrapes in general. Like they just, if they find a already established scrape, they'll put scent in it. Probably not necessary, but um, yeah, people swear by that type of stuff. And then some people think it's foolish too. It's,
I think
my buddy
there
Paul Patura, he he likes. I hope I'm not putting words into Paul's mouth, but like he likes to, like, if he makes a mock scrape, he likes people to know it's a mock scrape, so people don't fool with it. You
that's a
know,
good idea.
I
Just
know.
carve it. I mean, just break it out.
Yeah. Um, but dude, I've had literally people on camera. like putting scent in scrapes that I have cameras over. You know, I don't know
I've
if you
had
ever.
guys put cameras on the same tree as my camera.
Oh yeah,
That's when I kind of started getting turned off to it a little bit, is because, certain times of year Ohio gets quite a bit of pressure, and these guys know what they're doing and they're in pretty good spots. And I would just have a guy like come in October 31st and lay a camera directly on, like 3 feet under my camera.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I quit because I was making just these manicured things,
yeah.
300 yards off the road in some areas.
Like
But
a Troy Pottinger box scrape.
yeah, and then some guy would find it. But I have had some that did great, so it's situational.
It is. It is. I got to find that picture. I got it saved somewhere of the guy he just had some kind of scent like tinks or something. He was dumping in my scrape. Um, yeah, I don't know. Then there's a big part of me with the cell cameras and the mock scrapes, and it's like I don't, I'd rather kill one just on its terms, too. But they're tools to help that happen, I guess. You been messing with the longbow anymore?
I have, man. I love shooting that thing. I spend a ton
Yeah,
of time shooting it. I built up like tendonitis or some, I don't know, tennis elbow or something shooting it last year because I just was out there every day. But yeah, I shoot it a couple times a week. I'd like to get back to doing it every day, but I get home at dark right now. So
yeah,
I could bring it back in the basement, but I send a wild arrow every once in a while into my laundry room door, and my wife get pretty mad about that. So
yeah, dude. I got a couple holes in my barn from shooting traditional bows inside.
yeah, I've got 12 yards downstairs. And so when I was first starting out, that was a long ways.
Yeah,
Like 5 yards was far at first. So I'd get confidence at 5 and I'd go back to 12 and just sail it. It wasn't good.
you think you'll ever get to the point where you'll use it one year?
I really want to. I think what's going to happen, what I would like to see is if I don't have a target, like a big one to go after, I'll just break out the longbow and just go have a lot of fun and just kill a good respectable buck, or go try to kill a good respectable buck.
Yeah,
It's so hard to get any deer within, like, I mean, I'd say my effective range is probably 12 yards. And if I really, really practice, I can probably extend it to 15. But I know, like, when it's on a live animal, immediately I'm like, wait a minute, I can't aim, right? It freaks me out when I draw back. I'm like, at a target, it's fine because there's no repercussions of that. But on a living animal, I'm like, man, my confidence just isn't there yet. So it's a work in
yeah.
progress.
I just jumped into it whenever because there was a stretch of quite a few years where that's all I used. I took it elk hunting and mule deer hunting and everything, and I don't know, you just get confident with it eventually.
Yeah. I
But
love shooting it though.
oh, it's the best. Like I have no desire to shoot my compound usually.
How long is yours? Your
My
longbow?
longbow.
Yeah.
My favorite one that I've ever had it was a 50-inch Thunderchild, which I think is what you have too, right?
Yeah, I've got a 50, I want to say it's 54.
That's a little bit short for me, a 54. Man, I had a Thunderchild, the 58-inch one that I just couldn't miss. I mean, couldn't miss. It just fit my eye really well. I shot it really well. Yeah, and then I actually got my name in to get one built by oh my gosh, I feel bad for forgetting his name now. Steve Hewitt from Spartan.
Nice.
No, Bushman Bows is what the name.
Yeah.
The bows is Spartan, but so I'll probably get another 58-inch bow built by him. 58 is pretty short actually too. I mean, that's a short longbow. 54 is really short, but man, it's just different. It's so, I feel bad for guys that have really long draws that try to shoot traditional bows because you really can't shoot a real short bow, a traditional bow with a long draw, and it's kind of can be uncomfortable to shoot it. So it's a lot of bow to have up in a tree stand or a saddle.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's going to be a learning curve actually out in the woods. I do like carrying it around more than the compound though. I mean, it's light and agile and
yeah. Did you have a tree stand for the most part this year? Did you go back and forth?
so it's always a tree stand, but I hybrid hunt out of it. So I just run the Method 2. Right,
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple of them on the wall, but I ran the Method 2 last year, and just out of the stand, just a little stand, and I flip flop back and forth. I was saddle hunting in it when I saw the big 8, and then I made my move, and I was facing away from the tree as I shot him. So like I'm looking at the tree. He comes in at my 3 o'clock, and I'm like, well, I'm strong side. I would be shooting left, so I have to spin. So
Mm-hmm.
what I like about that stand is as soon as I spin, now I'm just tree stand hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever feel like I'm gonna fall. It's just like it just helps me. I feel more
Yeah,
comfortable doing that. But it was a really easy turn and smoked him. So I just prefer that. I mean, and you can use it as a pack on the way out if you kill him.
sure. I'm kind of looking forward to trying out that Latitude's coming out with a bigger profile platform, the XL, I think it's what it's going to be called. But I'm kind of looking forward to having that, trying that little bigger platform to see if I'm more comfortable up there, especially with, hunting with a traditional bow every now and again. Um, but I don't know. That seems like a good option to me as a bigger platform with the
That's
saddle.
that's what I would need for sure. Is just a bigger platform.
Hmm. Yeah. Eventually, like I don't know, maybe it's just the way I'm built or something, but like um, these guys that run some of this small stuff, and I'm just like, man, I get I get anxious up there with that kind of stuff. Not for the heights or anything. I get anxious of not being able to make a shot because I don't have enough real estate.
Yeah. So when you're like early season, how long are you in the stand? Like when are you getting out there getting set up?
I mean, I'll probably not that long. I mean, maybe a few hours
Okay.
would be a normal sit.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I normally try to leave the truck around like, depending on the access, maybe 11 a.m. and then be set up by like 2 or 3. So, I probably spend 5 hours out
Hmm.
there, and that 5 hours in that little bigger setup's just a little bit better.
Oh yeah, I
It
can
makes
see
it
that for
different.
sure. That's something that a lot of guys don't do early season is get in there that early.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just I have to go so slow that I don't want to be like up against the clock. Like I got to get in the stand right now, because then I'm going to
Hmm.
make a mistake. I have to be really slow to not make mistakes out there for, whatever reason. So I just give myself a lot of time, and then I sit there and I just kind of hang out, wait
Yeah,
for it to unfold.
yeah. Um, it's just sometimes I mean, it's tough sometimes to just when you're working and whatever else to get out there real early during the week or when it's good. You got to go when it's good, or whenever you're on one. So, but yeah, I try to get out there at least a few hours before deer are going to come in.
Yeah, I see. You see the question about early season over here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
We
that-
can go to some questions.
yeah, if you want to, that'd be cool.
Yeah, let's do it. Where did it go? It's about getting on early season when it's
Yeah,
hot.
kind of
Here we go.
caught
Pharrell,
my eye.
any tips for finding bucks early season when it's hot?
How about you go first on this one?
I don't know if I've ever killed a deer early season when it's hot per se.
Well, you've
Uh,
been on them though.
oh yeah, yeah. When it's hot, um, yeah. I mean, there's the cliche answer is sometimes here in the hills around here we got these little like I don't know where they come from or what they do, but there's these little ponds that have been around forever. Like I've never seen them like added, but they're definitely man-made ponds in the hills here. And I assume the state put them in there a long time ago just for the wildlife. Um, but there's one that I have a camera over, and when it's hot, the camera action picks up on those little watering holes that they have here. Um, but man, our season starts October, and it's not. I mean, we don't really get that many hot days. Also, Pharrell's from Texas. You got to remember that too. But like hot to a deer is different than what we think. I think they still can do their own thing for a long time. Um, so I don't have a great answer for that, to be honest with you. I've killed them in out west and really hot weather. And I killed one next to a lake. It was cool in a low area, real cool, in like a little drainage that had a little creek in it and came off of a lake, and there was just piles of deer in there. It was like 96 when I killed that deer.
Yeah, that's pretty hot.
Yeah,
It's getting up there.
yeah.
Man, I would say, I mean, Bill has some good answers over there, but North Slopes, that's something that I find him on. But I think, South Wind does that too. South Wind blows in hot air, and they're better
Hmm.
on the North Slopes for probably a couple different reasons. But it is shaded throughout the day, so I would say that if I think about all my time in the hills, the majority of the bucks that I've known about that were like in that same area as me that I had some eyes on were pretty much always coming off the North Slopes. I really like hunting areas that have like a creek down in that bottom that's within,
Hmm.
let's say a few hundred yards of where the bedding's at. And I'll actually find them come down at certain points in the day. It's not all the time, but sometimes they will come down and drink at like noon. They'll get
Hmm.
water and then they'll go back up. But a lot of times what I would say that one of the things I do is I just hunt like I normally would. Like I don't pay attention to the temperature. And I like it. I know there's a ton of people out there that they're like, well, it's 90 degrees out. I'm not going out. Right. And the temperature has no impact on if I'm going to go after that deer, if I have all the other conditions that I need or not. And if I look at my three biggest bucks of all time, I think the coldest day was like 84 and the hottest was mid 90s. And so it wasn't even a question. I was like, I'm going out. I'm going to go try to kill that deer. And so I personally don't see a lot of difference in the temperature early season, right? I think as you get into like mid-October and then into the rut, I've seen a really big difference. But
Sure.
early season, I don't like if it's 60 degrees versus 90 degrees, at least in the hills, I don't see a big difference whatsoever. I just go do my regular process and don't even pay attention to it, to be honest.
And that's what I was getting at. Like, I just don't think it affects them like, you know, um, like it affects us. We're not as tough as a deer, you know?
Not even close. No,
No,
it's
no. Pharrell also had another question about how many times have you seen deer around that 3 p.m. in early season? I'm assuming he's talking about.
so for me, quite a bit. It seems like 3 to 5 o'clock ish. See a lot of them up on their feet for whatever reason. I don't, I'm in those areas. Like I said, there's some creeks that are flowing, and I have water sources in the North Slope. So I don't know how often they're moving around, but I know that when I'm in there, a lot of times I will catch them moving in that time frame. So I would say that I always try to get set up by like 2:30, and like my biggest deer ever was 3:30ish. He came down, and so if I would have got in there, 4 or 5, I would have never even had a chance at killing him. So yeah, I mean it's definitely, I would say there's something to it early season specifically.
Okay. Wildlife driven, he says, have you all seen any dead bucks this shed season? My dad and I found 5 dead bucks total. Most of them look like younger bucks. I
So
haven't found any dead ones.
I haven't found a single dead one this year.
Mm-mm.
Where's he at?
I don't know. Wildlife driven, let us know where you're at. I know some parts of like Indiana, northern Indiana had some EHD this year. Um,
Out west a little bit.
yeah, maybe if you're in one of those areas, you're probably going to find some. Mm, yeah, I don't. I haven't found we haven't found any dead bucks this year. Um, you don't put any minerals out, do you, Jake?
No, it's illegal on public in Ohio.
Yeah. Someone was asking about that. Um, yeah, you can do about anything else on private in Ohio. You can put corn or minerals or anything you want out. But you ever use zip ties on your cameras?
I don't think I have that. The mechanics wire that I get comes in like I want to say it's a 500-foot roll for like $12.
Yeah.
So I just take my arm and I make a 6-foot span and I cut it and then I wrap it up around the camera and then I have it ready to go. And I always have enough. I keep a couple spares too, because every once in a while you will break that wire. That's actually a tip. So if you're using the wire, make like a 6-foot roll and wrap it around your hand and just stuff it in a pocket of your pack. Because when you break it and you don't have a long enough piece, it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I have messed with zip ties, and I had some bad experiences with them. I had a lot of them breaking. I don't know if it was the batch I got or something, or if it was just the being out in the sun all summer or what it was. But I had a lot of cameras on the ground using zip ties for for actually attaching it to the tree.
If they're not UV rated, they'll degrade extremely fast.
Yeah.
So it's more than possible that's what it was.
So I've used paracord with with Brian that Brian sells with his the Prusik knot. I don't know if it's a Prusik knot, but it's some type of a knot. I've had pretty good luck with that, but I like the wire idea because I've had a lot of squirrels chew through that paracord and drop my cameras on the ground too. So to me that wire makes a lot of sense. Okay, Nate, as he said, what's your biggest land feature you key in on with hill country?
I mean, for me, I would say that my eyes are always drawn to a hub system, right? Because it's the most diversity that I can find in the terrain. So I have the most points facing different directions. Some of these hubs will have 30 or 40 different little micro or sub ridges jutting out that are all potential bedding areas. So each bowl in between that point could be a bedding area, the side of the ridge, the point. So you could potentially have 100 different bedding areas in some of these systems. So I would say that that's generally what I'm looking for. I really don't hunt like very many just straight ridges with no like terrain diversity very often. I try to find just as much diversity as I can, and it typically ends up being a hub.
Yeah, I would second that. And just to say something different, Andy May, I had him on a while back, and he made a suggestion that I thought was really good for hill country was, if you can find one of those hub systems too, that if you have like this is going to be a poor example, but a hub that comes around like this, and you have 4 points that come down this way, but this side only has one. He's like, that's something I really like, because he said, deer can come down 3 or 4 different ways on this ridge, but over here they have to, if they're going to get up on that ridge, they have to go up this point or come down this point. And that's a really good feature that he likes to look for. And that's coming from Andy May. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That's a good tip.
Yeah. And that's the first time I've heard that. I mean, that was probably a couple years ago now, but something I try to look for. You don't see them very often, but when you do, it can be a good spot. It's like Avon Legend had a question. He said, is there an amount of hunter pressure that you limit yourself to putting up with? What if that pressure is in the area of your target buck?
So in Ohio, not really. We're spoiled here, in my opinion, as far as hunter pressure goes. I mean, I think I've seen 2 deer hunters in the woods in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very often whatsoever. And that's including like going out with my brother after I fill my tag and try, the whole 9 yards. So not very many at all. But in New York, I guess it depends. I would probably in a state like New York, I'm after, decent bucks. So I would probably leave the deer I'm chasing if the pressure was too high. I prefer, it's a personal preference. I prefer not having to dance around other guys and being able to make moves and, play that game. So I always try to seek just that solitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be negative towards people in Ohio, but you do hear a lot of people complaining recently about the pressure in Ohio being out of control. And I don't know, it didn't seem that bad the times I've hunted it the last few years, but I'm also hunted in some places that have a lot of pressure, like Wisconsin and Michigan. So
I think it's relative, right? I mean,
it is.
In certain areas, I'm sure get hit harder than others.
Yeah. And I don't want to discredit anybody saying that they ran into, a buttload of people in Ohio, but because they probably did.
Yeah. What I can say is if you put the work in, you can definitely find areas that you're not going to run into people very
Mhm.
often. It's just a matter of being in a decent location to be able to put that work in, because you don't want to have to commute to it, multiple hours. But I would say that, I'm blessed living where I live and having the public that I have around me and not having to deal with that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do one more, and then I'll let you go, Jake. I know you got kids and stuff to get to, and so do I. So, all right, Bo, he says, can you talk to us about wind switch bedding? What all about your access and strategy getting in and getting set up changes from in a situation where they aren't hub hopping?
Bo, what's up, man? All right. So what all about your access and strategy getting in and getting set up changes from in a situation where they aren't hub hopping?
Is he talking about like if you're going to get a wind switch in the middle of the day and they're hopping over to a different ridge or something like that? You think?
But it says, but they aren't hub hopping. Okay, so a lot of the wind switches that I find myself trying to target are like if I see the perfect situation, I'm like, hey, this buck is bedded somewhere on the east face of this ridge, and I know that there's really good whites on the white face, and I know that he's crossing over the spine of that ridge in the afternoon to go feed. Like, every once in a while you'll get that pattern. And well, now I have to be up on top of the ridge, right? Now, a west wind would be the most conducive for him bedding on that east face. But that doesn't set up great for me being up high on that spine of the ridge with the thermal still rising and swirling with a west wind blowing his direction. Like playing the gist off wind of that would be difficult for me to figure out. So what I'll look for a lot of times is say that he's bedded on that east face and I've got a west wind, but at like, you know, 10 a.m. or noon, it switches to an east wind or even like a good south wind. And actually, we had this situation when I was scouting with my buddy the other day, and we went through this exact same situation. But I would basically wait for that wind switch. That way, I have good access in, and I can be up on that ridge on the top, and the prevailing wind's taking my scent profile away from that deer's nose. But he was already bedded down, right? So there's two options that normally happen. I've seen both. Sometimes they'll just stick it out if it's the right area, and then they'll still make that move at night, and you're in pretty good position. Sometimes they'll get up and move whenever it switches. Like I've had bucks cross, if it's a really thick area, I've had bucks like on a scrape hit that scrape crossing bedding areas at like noon. And I go back and I correlate it throughout the year, and it's only on wind switches. And so the only thing that I can reason there is he's getting up because the wind's hitting him in the nose now instead of the back of the head, and he wants to go get comfortable. But I also think it's hard that it's going to be very specific to the deer, right? Because that deer's specific tendencies are probably going to lean one way or the other. If he doesn't want to move in daylight very often, he's probably not going to get up and move. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. It's something I've noticed too in hill country. Like, dude, sometimes they just don't follow the rules. Like they just will throw a curveball at you. But man, thanks for hopping on. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say the last thing there is I find myself having more success when I'm just putting myself, I scout my way in, right? And I forget all this fancy stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
And all these preconceived notions, because those are the worst thing that I could possibly have when I'm out there, because I'll get overly confident in what's going to happen and it doesn't happen, right? It's like a 1% chance. So I have the best luck and the best success when I say, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to scout my way in, I'm going to find good sign in an area that's conducive for me being there and not blowing the deer out. And when I find what I need, I'm just going to set up on it.
Yep.
When I find a good scrape or a good rub line coming out of some bedding and the wind's hitting me in the face and it's not blowing up the ridge to the deer because I have a good enough wind velocity for that day, I'm going to go hunt it. But none of that was predetermined or preconceived. I was in there in the moment and I was like, man, this wind is really good for me to work my way up that drainage. And I start working my way up that drainage. And I'm like, wow, that scrape's wide open. I'm like, well, I've pre-scouted this, so I know that there's some pretty decent bedding up in the top there. I'm going to hunt it. You know what I mean? Like I've had more success doing that than saying, hey, I'm going to go hunt this drainage on a west because I know that he's bedded in this bedding area. Because a lot of times I get in there and there's no sign it's dried up. That deer hasn't been in there in a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I would say that like this year for me, my biggest advice to myself is just, you know, have all these things that we talk about in the back of my mind and have my tool set ready, but just go in on the fly and be as present as I can be in that moment and try to just dissect what's in front of me and then make moves on the fly as opposed to believing anything's going to happen. I enjoy that hunt so much more as well.
That's also a negative of cameras, is sometimes you get so fixated on what they're telling you that you forget to kind of look at the ground around you, you know, that you're walking over.
Absolutely.
So, man, is there anything you want to pitch, or how can people follow along with what you're doing?
So Latitude Outdoors is great. They're posting a ton of stuff. We'll have the next season of the Grit coming out this year, and my Instagram's Jake Bush. And aside from that, thank you guys for hopping on tonight and asking some questions and listening. It's been a lot of fun, Josh. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yep, for sure. We can get into more stuff. So,
Awesome.
all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.